Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and I know I've made a lot of Position 5 videos in the last week, maybe even 2 weeks. Playing on a team currently, Apex Genesis. Maybe you guys saw some of the qualifier games. We took a game off Shopify, and we're practicing every day to get better, and I'm playing Position 5. I'm very much obsessed with the role right now, so I know a lot of my videos are Pos 5, but I'm going to be trying to switch it up in the upcoming weeks, trying to stay away from Pos 5, but this will be the last video I put out for a bit on the role, and I wanted to talk about the first 10 minutes of Ducalis' Elder Titan gameplay. I mentioned in the meta video that I wanted to make a full video on Elder Titan, and this video will sort of be that. I'm going to touch on kind of the main points of Elder Titan, but I also just want to touch on the first 10 minutes of Ducalis' gameplay. If you don't know who this is, he's ranked 18 in Europe. I believe this is around 14 to 15k MMR, and he's a Pos 5 only player. Yeah, you can do it as a Pos 5 only, get to these types of ranks. I mean, he is that good. And when I show you this gameplay, you should be able to see or eventually understand what it takes to get to that level, at least within the first 15 minutes. I was watching this back and I'm like, holy shit, this guy is a robot. On top of that, go sign up to the gameleap website, guys. I'm posting new content over there almost every day, and I'll see you there. Okay, so for the starting item build, Windlace, pretty standard, so you can stay on top of people with your W and your E. Blood grenades, same thing. Tangos, 2 sentries, and a branch. The sentries, you always buy 2 sentries at a high MMR. That's the Pos 5, almost always. There are a few exceptions. 1 to block the large, 1 to open the small. So from there, the first thing you do is you skill your W. You send it onto one hero, through the creep wave, onto the other hero. Basically how the hero works, it's actually simpler than people think. So the W, for every creep you hit, you get a certain amount of damage. For every hero you hit, you get a certain amount of damage. You also get armor and movement speed. So basically you become very fast, very tanky, and you hit very hard. And that's the idea. Once you hit all of these heroes, you're going to get about 29 damage. And that tends to be enough to trade with the majority of Pos 4s, because it also gives you movement speed and 3 armor, so you're tanky enough and fast enough to actually trade with ranged heroes. Now, the big thing that he does well here is that he doesn't overcommit on trading. Something that most Pos 5s are completely, literally useless at is contesting last hits and denies. All the good Pos 5s at this point in Dota, like the top MMR ones, will contest a lot of last hits and a lot of denies, mainly denies. And so you'll see here, he's going to trade. It's about, I think it's about 10 seconds of buff. Yeah, so it's 10 seconds of buff. He uses the first, honestly, 3 seconds to push away the ogre, just a couple of hits, and then resets and begins to deny. He uses his high damage to get a couple of denies here, or 1, and then he threatens the range creep, which they get as well. And this is perfect, right? This is a great first wave, nothing too complex. You use the first 3 to 4 seconds of the buff to threaten out the Pos 4, and then you deny the first creep. And this tends to work very, very well, where, you know, there's no deny while the spirit builds up, and then there is one after you've traded for a couple of seconds. This is a very consistent thing you can do. So as I was mentioning, he did block the large camp. The Ogre Magi proceeded to unblock it. He's going to use his spirit on the next creep wave. Actually gets an extra creep this time. He does let it kind of chill out. Notice how he doesn't pull it immediately back. He lets it chill out until he feels ready to trade, or until he is ready to deny. But yeah, he definitely doesn't pull it back right away. Now, when you hit level 2 on this hero, you are one of the best heroes in the game. The reason why is because of Deconstruction. Deconstruction is a broken facet. It's one of the highest win rate facets in the game right now, at all brackets. Basically, every second you're on top of someone with natural order skill, you reduce their armor by 1. Now, in the past, if you stepped out of range of natural order, it would instantly reset the armor reduction. Now, I'm going to show it to you here. Magnus is at -3 armor. This is because of natural order reducing the base armor by 40%, and then the extra 1 armor per second from Elder Titan staying on top of him. So basically, he's ticking 4, 5, which is already crazy. This much armor reduction 1 minute into the game is insane. You can make heroes like Terrorblade die to physical damage. Yeah, so hits him for 100, which is a pure damage auto attack at this point of the game. 121 on the Ogre. That's because he's affected by meld, so it's immediately like a billion armor reduction. This lane is pretty funny. I mean, look at these auto attacks. Now when the spirit is ending, he's going to kite out. But the big thing to watch here is once he walks away from the Magnus, instead of it immediately going back down, it actually ticks up, right? So you notice he gets +1, now +2, +3, and that's because he was under the tower, right? So he was getting some armor from the tower. But you get the point. I mean, heroes just cannot trade with you. This facet is straight up overpowered. After that trade, With a second remaining, he's able to unblock the small camp. Okay, 2 seconds remaining. He's able to unblock the small camp. He lets the large camp spawn, which I think is somewhat intentional, because at this point you're so strong that you can easily contest it. Sends out his spirit on the 2-minute mark. Almost gets skewered under tower. This is pretty risky. I actually think Magnus is one of your worst matchups. He does super well this game, but it's not a fun matchup because you have to be super afraid of skewer. Then he goes for the large camp pull, which is great. As I said, I think this was intentional. I think you block it in minute 1 because you're not that strong in minute 1. You also want to keep the lane back initially when you're level 2, so you can use the level 2 timing and chase them down. Then, when the lane pushes a little bit, you can leave the large camp and then pull it yourself, which is awesome. And what was really cool here is he pushes them away, and with his next spirit, he actually stacks the small camp. Just incredible efficiency. This guy's awareness of the clock is unbelievable. And he's very consistent about this. It's not a one-game thing. He does this, I mean, occasionally he'll mess up, but very consistent. And that is why this guy is super high MMR. Because a lot of players can do these things. Every game? No. Will they miss a bunch of them? Yes, right? He's just so good about it. Gets the stack, and comes back to lane, kind of pushes them away. Once you have a stack pull, especially a stack pull of 2 good camps, as long as one of them isn't the Cobalt camp, you're going to wipe out the wave. You're going to be able to wipe out 2 waves most of the time. He actually auto-attacks a small camp a bit here. I don't exactly know why. I think he's probably afraid of the enemy contesting it. Maybe he wanted to hit level 3. That could be it. Right? Because he barely hits level 3 from a couple of those small creeps. I mean, that's insane if that's what he's thinking. That's super cool. And level 3 Elder Titan, the W gets 2 times as good. And so now he's hitting for 170. And at level 3, Elder Titan is beyond insane. I mean, this hero cannot be traded with in the majority of lanes, especially if your carry is a hero that can help you. I would say TA isn't the best. She's okay if she can hit a meld, but not the best heroes like Drow that can just immediately start attacking with your aura, or Gyro who can flak, or PA who can dagger to help you stay on top of them. Like, these heroes are a bit nicer, or like a Troll Warlord. TA is fine. But yeah, just bodying them out, 132. And trust me, it can get way more nasty if you're able to stick on top of them. Players at this bracket have much better positioning, and they understand how scary this Facet is, and so they're a lot more hesitant to let you stick on top of them. They're not just going to casually man up. And so yeah, his first 4 minutes have been nasty good, and when you deny an entire creep wave and zone the enemy this efficiently and pull their camp and pull the large camp to their wave, you just grief them this hard, you're going to create net worth discrepancies. Now, to be fair, his carry is Watson, who's one of the best players in the world, and that certainly helps. But trust me, guys, like, even if your carry has no clue what they're doing, if you're this efficient, if you make this little mistakes, you also buy the right items. He bought a second set of tangos. Then he saves up for boots, which is fine. I mean, at the end of the day, the main thing you want to do on this hero is stick on top of people. Gets another stack. Oh yeah, I mean, let me focus on the game a little bit here, guys. Like, gets another pull on the large in a moment from now. Pulls the large again, which is great, because now you're going to be able to farm the large camp. The TA is going to be able to farm it. Plus, you're going to be able to potentially deny a creep. Another stack on the small camp. And keep in mind, this is not it's not really a roaming hero. Elder Titan is a hero that tends to want to stay in his lane. He's okay at hitting the gate, but your mana pool isn't the best, so you have to be a little bit careful about that. But you're okay at hitting the gate because you can just kind of stick on top of people and reduce armor, which is nice. But you're not the best. You're okay at contesting the rune, especially now because of this deconstruction facet. This hero previously was like quite terrible at moving around. Now it's honestly all right just because of this, right? Which is why it's so broken. It just lets you play in such a different way at every stage of the game, and we'll talk a bit about it in a second. But continues to pull, which I actually like in terms of skill build. You put your Q at 4. And gets another pull. As I was saying, you just want to sit in your lane. He does end up going to the 4 rune, and this was great as well. Like, everything he does is like what I'm learning. I'm getting better at 5 pretty quickly, but like the things I'm learning just from playing a ton of games and talking to a lot of really smart people are the things I can tell that he already does. And when I watch his replays, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm learning the right things. Because I see him doing it. I'm like, these opinions are like what a rank 18 are doing. So he wards mid, which is a little risky because he might have gotten seen, but whatever. And what I like here is that instead of directly contesting the rune, because Ogre is here and his Monkey King, his mid laner, is not here, he just gives it up. And this is a very important play in my opinion. It's not complex, it's just don't feed. The amount of people, because I know a lot of you guys probably know this idea of contesting rune on support if you watch this channel. You're just going to sit on the rune, right? That's what most people do. It's terrible. I do it all the time. You just feed away a kill. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. You should only sit on the rune if you're either a really tanky hero that can push them away like clockwork, or your mid is coming and you're going to fight, right? In that example, that was clearly not the case, so I love that he does not interact. After that, he decides to go bottom. Right, so he pushes out the mid wave, sees a bot fight happening, and now at this point he's just got to stick on people. He's got to spirit out, blood grenades the Lina, which is probably pretty pointless. Gonna look to stick on the DK at some point here, begin to reduce his armor, clubs him down, very nice. At this point you just need some mana regen items, which is why sometimes I'm not a huge fan of this boots. I like stick raindrops, because you do have mana problems on this hero, like pretty heavy mana problems on this hero. You need your neutral item to be like a shovel to get mangoes and water runes, or a jelly. You know what I mean? You really want one of these items. As he pops a clarity, picks up tranquils, which are pretty common, just so you can stick on the map. You want to be full HP at all times on this hero, because in teamfights, you need to just stay on people, right? And you're putting yourself in danger when you do that. As the game progresses, you really don't do that anymore, but probably until minute 12 to 15, depending on how your game is going and how their games are going, you can continue to just stick on people with natural order. Okay, another thing is he's willing to sat mid. Again, this hero isn't exactly the best at this point of the game. I would say Elder Titan is best at 2 points. The laning stage, so, you know, minute like 0 to 7, if you're laning, or I would say even more so 0 to 5. And then probably from 15 to 25. And later. This hero is very, very good in the late game. Which is why it's a great pub hero. It's a good laner, and then it scales well. You're not exactly the best like tempo mid-game hero though, right? Something like a Hoodwink with a low cooldown ult and like high damage nukes and a stun is a lot more reliable than Elder Titan. Can you destroy people at this point of the game? Yeah, you can, but it's just a lot less reliable. And so being one of those heroes that kind of sits mid, gets levels, you know, 2 points in his Q, next level he's going to be able to get his ulti, get a lot of burst damage, stacks the large camp into the top rune, which he does break on the Ogre. That's fine. You can scout things out with your W, by the way, as well. It is a vision ability, which is super nice. Oh, gets a 2-man stomp. That was a super nice Willow root. And this 2-man stomp leads into a terribly metamorphosis, and they are able to pick up the kill on the Lich. This is great. Okay, so a couple other things I do want to talk about now as he continues to chase that are very, very important for this hero. So when you have your Spirit out, the Spirit only reduces magic resistance. So Natural Order does two things. It reduces base magic resistance. So almost every hero in Dota has 25% base resistance. And when you have the Spirit on them, that's what it reduces. If your hero is on them, it reduces armor. And if you don't have the Spirit out, then your hero will do both, right? And so basically the Spirit is magic resist, the hero is armor. And so this hero's best combos in the mid to late game are magic damage heroes. Early game, it's actually more physical. As the game progresses, it's going to be magical. Because you'll see when he puts the Spirit on Lina, every single tick of the Spirit being on her will reduce her magic resistance by 1%. That is a lot. It's especially a lot when it puts them into the negatives. Negative resistance in Dota is a big, 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 big deal, right? And when you have maxed out E, which he's not close to, it is 100% base resistance. So if they don't have Glimmer, Pipe, a Cloak, any of the magic resist items, your E will ruin them if they take magic damage. To be fair, his team comp this game is like really terrible with Elder Titan. You will not see a draft like this with Elder Titan in the pro scene. I assure you, you're going to see some sort of magic damage. Willow is okay. I mean, Willow's good. That's it. So coming into the 9-minute mark, he died in the mid fight, and I thought it was pretty funny that he decided to pull. Like, it's just 9 minutes in and he pulls. The reason why I like pulling at this point in the game, if you are going to do it, is primarily to get a neutral item. I don't know if that's what he's thinking here, but like getting a neutral items are broken, guys. I've said this in a lot of videos, but neutral items, I value them at about 700 gold, and sometimes more, depending on how good it is on your hero and how much you need it, right? I mean, that is insane, guys. 700 gold is a double kill, and I really do view neutral items that way. So I would have even potentially liked to seen him last at all of the creeps to really try to get a jelly. Because look, one combo of your abilities is 2/3 of your mana pool, maybe even 3/4. But okay, let's look at this mid fight. Again, his positioning is incredible. He's reading this movement without any vision. It almost, I don't know, it seems like he sees them coming. Like, he was so quick with that Spirit. I mean, so quick. So impressive. And by the way, this is another little tip. I just learned this today. Earth Splitter does 50%, read the last line. Half of the damage dealt is magic damage, and the other half is physical damage. So if you want your Earth Splitter to do maximum damage, you need to be on top of them with your main hero. That is best case scenario. You're reducing their armor and their spirit resist, right? So that's how you actually deal max damage with the ult, comically enough. You need to actually reduce both resistances. It's not just magic. It says magic, but it's not. It should say both. But yeah, what a stomp. Finds the angle. When the spirit's on them like this, again, magic resist reducing, and now it goes from 25% all the way down to 14. And again, this is with 1 point in the ability. This ability becomes way better when you scale it out. And now this Willow can just go to work. I mean, this W from the Willow is going to chunk in this case. And that's what this hero does. It just makes people paper, right? Like this W, I mean, she would have died. Okay, she would have died anyway. Let's be real. You know what's funny as well? It amps Blood Grenade. And like, unironically, it actually has quite a bit of impact in the early game when your Blood Grenade just deals 25% more damage. That's 25 more damage if they're at 0% resistance. And so I'd say he spends the majority of minute like 7 to 10 just playing the mid wave. You're very good at stomping the mid lane. I mean, like, his stomping as in using Echo Stomp. Also in terms of skill build, you put 3 points Echo Stomp. And then after 3 points Echo Stomp, it's long enough to set up for your ult pretty reliably. And so you start to max your E. And that's the build. You skip your talent at 10. Basically, his talents just kind of aren't that good until you have items. So if you decide to go the Axe route, and I'll show you guys now just how the late game looks. So my favorite build that he does, and I really like it. All right, you skip your talent, you max your E, then you go back for your W. So you max your W, skill your ulti at 12, max your abilities. You can actually leave the stomp at 3 and take attack speed. Right? Because that's nice when you have the axe. And then you take the Astral Spirit hero attack, and then you take cleave. And all of a sudden, you can scale into a right clicker as this hero. It's pretty awesome. Another reason why I love him as a pub hero. Because if the game isn't going great, that's fine. You buy drums into axe, and what the axe does is for every single hero that you hit with your Astral Spirit, you get 2 seconds of BKB. So if you hit their whole team, or if you're against Meepo, you can get 10 seconds of BKB. If you're against Meepo, you can actually get like 16 seconds, funny enough. It's quite funny. But yeah, I wanted to make this video primarily focused on the early game because of how impressed I was. But hopefully you have a gist of how to skill the hero now. In terms of items, as I said, drums and axe. He also goes drums into solar, which is good. You just want to buff up your team and be tanky. So you can run in and use your E. However, as the game progresses, you begin to use your E melee range, like the armor reduction, a lot less. You primarily play around stomping people and finding a good opportunity for ult and keeping your Astral Spirit on people for as long as possible so you amp their magic damage resistance. Now, again, this game is just not that useful, which is why this draft, it's a pub draft. It's just not going to have perfect synergy. But in your games, or if you're playing with your friends, you want to pair together with heroes like Sand King or Gyrocopter or Earth Spirit or Primal Beast. These are some of the best examples of heroes with consistent AoE magic damage. Okay, and to end the video, just going to show one team fight, also talk about a couple of items. Ceremonial Robe is incredible because, again, it synergizes with the E. Everything about this hero is amping magic damage in the mid to late game. The armor reduction is just not something you can really think about. Is it good? Yes. Is it kind of viable once you have Axe? Yeah, because once you have magic resist, you can sort of get in there because when you have magic resistance or the debuff immunity, you also have armor. Every single hero you hit, you get 6 armor. So even if you only hit 3 heroes, you immediately have 18 armor. So you can actually run in. And that's what's awesome. Then you can reduce all of their base armor and all of their magic resistance. Now, again, it's only the base. So if they buy items like Cloak or Plate Mail, you will not reduce that. You will with Deconstruction. You can reduce Cloak with Deconstruction, but Natural Order does not affect it initially, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, in this team fight, puts out his W, waits for them to commit on one of his heroes. His Monkey King gets bursted, which is a little unfortunate, but gets a 2-man sleep. And again, reducing that resistance immediately. The Dragonite, if he doesn't pop BKB, is going to be to -3 resistance. And so in this case, look at that, -10. Like this hero plus Zeus can just or Lina can just blow people up. Gets the ulti in there and then does a ton of damage. I mean, look at that ulti against the Dragonite. That's because his magic resistance is so low. And if he was able to get on top of him with the E, when the BKB isn't active, it would have done even more. Now, unfortunately, as I said, this fight goes poorly, but look, 24 armor because of the spirit, magic resist, and look at this ogre, 382 on that first hit. 389 on the second hit because the armor reduction starts to kick in, then 415. And honestly, at this point, I actually thought he might try to kill Alina, but she has a Ghost Scepter, so good awareness from him to try to kite. I mean, he does end up going now. But yeah, this hero is very, very broken right now, guys. I think it's super overtuned. I'm going to be trying to play it more. And yeah, I wanted to make a video on it. I wanted to talk about it because I'm very enthusiastic about it. But all right, that's going to be it. The end of Position 5 videos for a little bit. If you enjoyed and you like Pause 5 videos, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website, where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.